Dear friends, welcome to this episode of Beyond Classroom. As you all might be knowing that Russian President Vladimir Putin is in India. In fact, the one word which comes to our mind when we see India-Russia relationship is that a time-tested friendship. A friend in need is friend indeed. And if we see the history of India-Russia relationship, Russia has always been a very good friend to India. This particular visit in backdrop of Ukraine war and different geopolitical positioning seems to be very important and closely watched by the major world powers, in fact all the world. So today we are going to discuss this topic which is very important not only for general awareness but also from your exam point of view, whether it is prelims, mains or interview. So we'll start from the basics. We'll start with the background of the relationship, then we'll go forward. So with our esteemed panel, I would like to start with Mathimaran sir. Sir, can you tell me what is the history of India-Russia relationship?
Indo-Russian relations is one of the most enduring, most strategic and most misunderstood relations in geopolitical context. This relationship is shaped by wars, vetoes, sanctions and geopolitical shifts. If you look at the origin of this relationship, we have to go back to the Soviet era. When India became independent in 1947, we were economically weak and politically isolated. And at this point of time, Soviet Union pitched in as India's dependable partner. It was with the help of Soviet Union we built India's industrial backbone. Let it be iron and steel industries, mining or heavy industries. USSR helped India immensely. After that, we had the constant hand-holding of USSR. For example, USSR repeatedly used her veto power in the United Nations Security Council decisions. Let it be on Kashmir issue or India's intervention into Goa to overthrow the Portuguese. And later in 1966, it was USSR that negotiated Tashkent Agreement between India and Pakistan post-Indo-Pak War. And in 1971, it was the Indo-Soviet Treaty that decided the outcome of Bangladesh Liberation War. Eventually, Soviet Union, as all of us know, collapsed in 1991. But at that point of time, we signed a treaty with the Russian Federation in 1993 and sided with Russia. And that is a relationship that defines the fate and future of India till date. It is a relationship that is still paying dividends. Come the 21st century, in the year 2000, we established a strategic partnership. And in 2010, we established a special strategic privileged partnership with Russia. And today, we cooperate with Russia in multiple domains. Let it be space technology, let it be defense, nuclear technology, vaccines, missile technology and whatnot. Even after the dip in global economy due to COVID, the Indo-Russian trade had increased approximately by 6 times. That defines the very nature of this relationship.
Thank you, sir. Sir, coming to the present visit of Vladimir Putin, sir, what is the outcome of President Modi ji and Putin visit?
As Sir give you detail of history of India-Russia relationship, but the recent visit is very special. Now, why it is special? That's a very interesting thing. On one hand, there is a growing India-US, I won't say differences, but definitely a tense relationship is there. And Trump recently announced about G2 going for more tariff imposition against India. So, and the cause of this punitive action is one, directly related to the Russia, like purchase of the Russian oil is there, plus purchase of Russian defense equipments are there. Now, in this context, this visit become very important because it is a political signal to the world also. Although India is closely associated with multiple geopolitical power or multiple political powers, but still its autonomy will not be compromised, strategic autonomy will not be compromised in any way. India will continue to consider Russia as its major ally. Now, if I would term what joint statement was there, they talk about is a time-tested progressive relationship, and a special and privileged strategic partnership is there, and they termed a very specific thing like India-Russia relationship remained close, resilient despite this complex geopolitical conditions. So that is why this visit is very special and common political signaling that will continue to consolidate our relationship there. Now, the major areas where we're going to focus on our relationship, it's going to be defense. It's going to be defense. We purchased S-400 and now we are looking forward of the production of the S-400 in India. Now, apart from that, BrahMos is already rolled out. Apart from that, the cooperation on hypersonic weapons are going. In economics, they decided to continue or take their trade up to 100 billion US dollar. That is something, a great data they have fixed for us. Then FTA will be signed between India and Eurasian Economic Federations. So that is another important directions where India and Russia is setting for our rolling out basically. Apart from that, the cooperation in mobility, they started inviting Indian laborers or Indian workers to work in the Russia. Apart from that, cooperation on health sector issues and to dealing with the immigration problems. So, a lot of issue has been discussed. But the most important outcome, what I am trying to tell you, that India firmly maintained its strategic positions and its autonomous position in the recent shifting world or changing world where the Ukraine war was going on, then Indo-Pakistan small conflict was there, then there is a pressure from China is also there. In between that, this visit and the joint statement matters a lot.
So I'd like to add to that. This is beautifully said, sir, beautifully said that this relationship has endured NAM. Despite signing NAM, we are still holding a good relationship with Russia, one thing. And two things, today's update, Russia has promised to help in Make in India campaign.
Yes.
Recent update.
Right, sir. Sir, but coming to your point, sir, India is trying to maintain its strategic autonomy. But, sir, if you see that US, it has imposed certain sanctions on India for doing certain things which China was doing more than India. So why such double standard was there?
This is a very interesting question. Why India got this punitive action by US for purchasing Russian oil and purchasing arms. And if I'll give you the data, that's a very interesting data. In 90s, China was the largest importer of weapon from the Russia. Even today, advanced technology, I would add on more advanced technology than India is exported to China by the Russians. That's the one interesting thing. The second, the oil import, specifically I'm talking about after Ukraine war. And if I'll give you the data, that data goes to 40% of the total oil production of Russia through the various means. That's a huge data. The China, purchased it. But in comparison to both, Indian import of defense is relatively less and even oil is relatively less. Now, why nothing has been done much against the China, but has been done against India? What is the fundamental reason behind it? What is the fundamental politics behind it? Now, the first important thing is that actually in Europe, our overall US allies, this is a message that India is aligned with the US. And if US is not able to manage its own partner in their war against Russia or helping to the Ukraine in the war against the Russia, then how he'll be able to align rest of the partners in the war effort against the Russia in favor of the Ukraine? That was a big message if they are not able to control their own partner. Now, the second important thing is that US also take it a rational decision because US already tested imposition of tariffs and trade wars with the Russia, with the China, And they realized it well that it is going to mutually hit both of the economies, and it detrimental not only to the Chinese economy but to the Russian economy, but to the US economy too. And at the same time, they know that these tariffs are much hurting Indian economy rather than compared to the, Chinese to the US economy basically. So they understand it is what the advantage they have in case of India against the Chinese position. Now the third important reason is they have already taken China as their adversary and rivalry. They have already done a lot of things, but now that is not the case in India. So they are looking forward to pull India towards them in Indo-Pacific situation basically. And last thing, but very interesting thing, I would say that this was also assumed that ability of China to manipulate, I would say, to convince Russia in handling the Ukraine war is much more than the Indian side. So Trump was very much confident that once he'll be in the power, he'll going to settle the Ukrainian war. And in its strategy, the China was the kingmaker over. They believe that Russians will never say no to the Chinese attempt to mediate the war and end the war, in comparison to the Indian ability basically to, I would say, convince the Russian president. So they believe that US strategy is more aggressive, more making it more aggressive towards India will be very rational effort to serve the US interest in comparison to the China. That is one of the reason basically.
Yeah, in fact, Trump always used to say trade. We have, use trade as a means to stop wars between India and Pakistan as well.
Yes. I would like to, sir, just one more thing I would say that there is some worrisome situation also, because if you link China, Russia and Pakistan, so J-11 fighters basically, that's the not good news for India. In J-11 fighters, it is made in China and the engines are Russians, and it was used by Pakistani against India. So this is something worrisome for us, and definitely India has to take action. Think about it.
So coming to the economic relation, so obviously US was trying to use it as a leverage against India when they imposed tariffs on India. And if you see India-Russia relationship, it's a long time-tested relationship. Still, our trade is not that much. What is the reason behind it?
Sir, the level of trade that we have with Russia, it is represented with the goal that we made in 2021, that we want to reach $50 billion by 2025 and $100 billion by 2030. And with China, we are already at $100 billion plus trade. With USA also, we are at $100 billion plus trade. And we are at this moment $68 billion trade with Russia approximately, from which we have a $60 billion trade deficit. The major reason is because of two things. Any trade relation is either based upon the proximity or it is based upon the similarities. With Russia, we do not have both the things. We don't have the direct border sharing with Russia. With Russia, we also have a language barrier, because of which the people-to-people contact, in spite of having at the best level, we are not able to have a good trade relations. Secondly, we have more to import, less to export. That is why we are importing about $58 billion, amongst which oil is forming the major trade relation. But we are exporting only about $4 to $5 billion, of which minerals are again one of the exports. The manufacturing goods are one of the exports. But our strength is the IT and ITES services, for which language plays a very important role, which we do not share with Russia. That is why our trade relation is having a very strong barrier, which we are trying to overcome by having better people-to-people contact and utilizing the AI, where if we have good translation, we have good participation in the Russian economy also.
Right. I'd just like to add one more factor. Most of the Indo-Russia trade is basically intergovernmental trade. Private partners are not much included in the trade, and this is one of the reasons that our trade volume is very low. if you look into Russia-China relationship or Russian relationship with the many other countries, their trade volume is very high because it is not only government to government trade is there. A lot of private partners are, all private business groups are also engaged in. That is one of the important factor, that the trade is highly diversified and the volume of the trade is high basically.
Right, sir, right. One of the major trade relation between India and Russia is defense relationship.
Yes.
So, Matiwaran sir, can you tell me what kind of science and technology cooperation Russia and India are doing?
Sir, if we have to really appreciate Indo-Russian relations, the one domain to focus on is science and technology. For example, India's space journey kick-started with USSR SILP. It was USSR that helped us to launch our first satellite in 1975, Aryabhatta. Subsequently, it was in a Soyuz craft. Rakesh Sharma became the first Indian to orbit around the Earth, 1984. And that tradition continues till date. Recently, Russia has contributed immensely to Gaganyaan mission, right from astronaut training to safety precautions. And Russia in 2025 has pledged support to develop India's space station. And then comes the field of navigation. Russia has GLONASS, we have NAVIC, everybody knows that. And this is a rare collaboration because both these countries have their ground control centers in each other's territories. And recent space missions like Chandrayaan, like missions to Mars, Russia's planned mission to Mars, moon missions, for example, Luna 27, missions to Venus. In all these missions, we are still collaborating with each other. And we have plans to build joint lunar bases on the moon in the future. And when it comes to cryogenic technology, it was Soviet Union, later Russia, that contributed immensely for us to develop our indigenous cryogenic technology, due to which we have our GSLV vehicles today. And that cooperation is extending to civilian sectors also. For example, today we cooperate in the domains of biotechnology, information communication technology. We develop vaccines jointly together. For example, India's oral polio vaccine ecosystem was developed with the assistance of Russia. And right from vaccines to missiles, from defense to advanced science, we are still collaborating, and the collaboration is only going to continue.
Rightly pointed out, sir. It's just not a simple exchange, but a joint development and joint production where Russia is trying to develop indigenous capacity as well for
BrahMos, fifth generation aircrafts.
And in fact, for S-500 also they are saying that they will collaborate on its joint development and production. Sir, this S-400, S-500, lots of talks is going on. So what is the difference between S-400 and S-500?
Sir, till before the Operation Sindoor, S-400 Triumph was only known by the people who study the defense relations or science and technology. But because of the efficacy of S-400, we have understood the advantage that the missile defense system brings to us. And S-500 is an evolved version of the air missile defense system, where in the S-400 the range was about 400 kilometers. S-500 will come with a range of about 600 kilometers. It means the base range will be around 600 kilometers. When it comes to the altitude, 400 only could reach the altitude of about 30 kilometers. S-500 has the capacity to reach the altitude of even till 200 kilometers. The missile defense can be from the missiles or ballistic missiles, but S-500 will also provide the defense from the hypersonic missile system also. It means it is an upgraded version which will provide us more protection through the development of the new warfare that our enemy may plan to create. So this is what the countries are aspiring
As
to.
you pointed out, Operation Sindoor, there is an interesting story about S-400 and Operation Sindoor. There's lots of buzz was going on in media regarding S-400. In fact, Modi ji has clicked one picture with S-400 in the behind. So can you throw some light on that particular story?
I'll elaborate on that, sir. But before that, let me add to Sar's answer. S-500 is more of a strategic system because it can target hypersonic glide vehicles. It can target lesser number of threats but with more precision and more advanced threats. I would like to add that. And when it comes to S-400, everybody knows the story. We inked a deal with Russia around 2018 for 5 S-400 batteries for about $3 billion. The beauty is that we did not just purchase the system from Russia. We integrated the system, we renamed the system actually, Sudarshan Chakra. We have integrated the system into India's air defense seamlessly. That was a seamless integration. We already have an air defense system, we integrated the system into that. As Sir rightly pointed out, this has a range of about 400 kilometers. S-400 has a range of about 400 kilometers. It can simultaneously track 300 targets and then it can engage 36 targets parallelly, and it could counter launch 72 missiles to neutralize these targets. So because we had S-400 integrated into our system, we could predict and track the enemy missiles and projectiles thrown at India by Pakistan in the northern and the western parts of India after Pahalgam attack, retaliation to Operation Sindoor. Not only that, this is a cost-effective and a capable system compared to Western systems such as THAAD. And more importantly, Russians provide long-term support. They also agree to technology transfer. So this is not just an ad hoc solution. This is a long-term relationship and a strategic partnership which is going to continue probably into the S-500s in the future.
There is one more reason which is pointed out, that most of the weapons which Pakistan uses Western made. So we cannot go for such defense system with Western countries. Is it true, sir?
Look, I would say now it seems to be fair that it can be well utilized against Pakistan. But we can't guarantee in the future. The way Russia-China ties are improving and Russians are gradually moving to sell their weapons to Pakistan, or the Chinese are ready to sell their weapons to Pakistan and they are utilizing Russian engines and other technologies, that may be a long-term issue for India basically.
Sir, I would also like to point out one more thing, sir. The irony is that Russia used S-400 in Ukraine. Ukraine conflict they used. But the success rate of S-400 in Ukraine is much worse than the success rate of S-400 in India against Pakistan. That is not just because of the system, it's because of the integration with the existing technology. So it's not about Pakistan just having that system, it's about how efficiently and intelligently they use it.
In fact, Turkey also has S-400.
Turkey also has it.
System. So, sir, that's coming to Russia-China synergy. What can India do to break it?
Now, this is a very important question. There is a growing Russia-China synergy. And now first, what will be the impact of this synergy? The first important thing is that, if I would say what happened to the political rhetoric or narrative basically. So, the first important thing that the India follow a policy of hedging. Policy of hedging means India is not completely aligned with one power and open with both of the option and engage with both of the powers. So, if Russia-China come closer, the Indian policy of hedging is going to be severely impacted, and India's option Russia as a balancer is going to, it is going to decrease a lot. That's one of the major impact what India is going to face. The second important thing, looking into the context of recent US attitude towards India. So the Indian capability of strategic maneuvering in Asia become very limited because of growing China-Russia relationship, as well as the Western hostile nature towards India. And India, as for long, was in a better position to well aligned with Russia and China because of their distance, and managed to balance the US in multiple cases. Now India will lose that particular ability basically. That's the biggest drawback of growing Russia-China synergy. The second important aspect of it, as we discuss about the defense part. So if the Russia-China defense relationship continue to grow, if the supply of weapons and technology will continue to grow, and India is utilizing all the Russian supplied weapons. So in case of any low conflict between India and Russia, so there is always a risk of predictability by the Chinese experts also there. So this is another important part. The third important aspect of it, the Ukraine war brought China and Russia much closer to each other, and it pushed back Indian position on certain issues, specifically anti-terror. In case of anti-terror, Russians' position towards India was in India's favor, but now they are gradually distancing and posing themselves as a neutral and multiple positions. And the last but the very important aspect of it, Russia maintained a balance till date by not criticizing India on multiple issues when it comes to India and China relationship. So whenever India and China direct engagement is there, Russians maintain a neutrality. But how long they are going to make this neutral position, that is again under question. But the second important thing is, Russia keep on criticizing US Indo-Pacific policy, even the Quad, and India is a member of the Quad. And Russia is quite vocal against this. So how long Russia will maintain this strategic posturing, criticizing Quad and Indo-Pacific policy, but not directly criticizing India? So if these things will be exposed, and once they have to, take a direct position, then it may deteriorate India-Russia strategic relationship, and I would say the political posturing over the various regional and global issues.
Sir, it is said that a friend of everyone is friend of none.
Yeah,
and
that's true to a certain extent.
And if India will maintain such posture, so balancing act becomes very, very difficult. For example, when US is raising certain objections,
Yes,
it becomes very difficult for India to balance.
That's the challenge we are going to face in the future.
Right. So how India plans to do that, keeping all these stakeholders into fray? And then
that's a very tight rope, and it is very difficult to follow it. But before this, I'll just try to make you understand how these India, China, Russia, US, how they see the world order and what is their future aspirations to see it. So I'll start with the US. US wanted unipolarity and a multipolar Asia. When it comes to the China, they want bipolarity, China-centric Asian order, and multipolar South Asia. When it comes to India, India want India-centric South Asia, multipolar Asia, and multipolar world basically. So now the aspiration of all these powers are very much different, and they are engaged with each other in hedging and balancing act. And as India's engagement is much to the US, this is very interesting, but this is very problematic also. I'm raising this point. Indian defense engagement is very much with the Russia, and Indian economic ties are very much with the US and allies, if you look into the trade. Now, this is a troublesome also, but it worked for a long India to balance both of them. It troublesome, why? Because over dependence over the Russia will trouble India, because if you look into India-Russia defense relationship, delay and upgradation is a major problem. I mean, Russian equipments are delayed to deliver India, and upgradations are not working properly basically. Admiral Gorsko, that is known as INS Vikramaditya basically, it delayed and price tripled basically, and Russian targeting system is not that good basically. In BrahMos, India contributed in terms of a targeting system. So because it take a software and it I would say it target precisely, but the Russian targeting system is very poor. The maximum accidents of the weapons are the submarines in the world is of the Russians basically. So completely depending on Russia is a major problem, and till date almost 60 to 70% of India's defense import is with the Russia. And the same thing, if you talk about India's economic relationship, it is mainly with the Western players, including the China. So what India has to do that to maintain its positioning, we need to diversify. We need to diversify our economic relationships also, and we need to diversify our defense relationship.
Coming to that, sir. In fact, I was going to ask Nitish sir only how this recently India-US has done this defense deal. So how it is going to impact India-Russia defense relationship?
I'll start with the deal of S-400. USA did not do very well because Trump was very clear that if India continues with the S-400 Triumph deal, then India has to face some of the repercussions with USA. But then also, because of Trump very keen to reduce the trade deficit that they have with India, they made India as a major defense partner. But that started with Russia's proximity with Pakistan first. Russia and Pakistan, they conducted joint military exercises. China, Russia and Pakistan, as sir has rightly mentioned, is forming an axis. So that pushed India towards having the good defense relations with the USA. This 10-year defense deal with the USA, Russia will not similarly accept the way USA did not accept a deal with the Russians. But as sir has mentioned about the multiple alignments with the hedging, and also national security is of the immense importance. And rather than thinking of how Russia will perceive it, we are highlighting how Russia is still important for us, because even though we are diversifying our defense relation either with the USA or with France or with Israel, still Russia remains the dominant defense supplier to India. So we are clearly highlighting the multiple alignments that we are having, and we will not let that come in between India-Russia relationships, that we are having a better relationship with the USA. And because we are having joint production with the USA, that is making Russia to support and Make in India program for our S-500 program that we want to have now.
Just like to add on, like once Indian Prime Minister said that ki one old friend is better than two new friends. That the context was the defense, and the indication was one old friend was the Russia, and the two new friend was the US and Israel in terms of defense purchase. So that's very much true. We are looking for our diversification of the defense purchase. So on one hand, it will streamline our defense system, and our dependency over the Russians will be reduced. It will help also to increase our maneuvering in Himalayan borders against the Chinese system. If we can use non-Russians, more Western system, so that will be good if you can utilize it against the Chinese system.
So China is deploying robot soldiers at borders.
That's
So there are some robo dogs they are deploying there. So we have to now get prepared for that as well.
Yes, the war, I mean, like this type of things are going to be increased further, and the way Chinese dark machines are there, you know, hundreds of the kilometers, it is the machines are engaged in production, no humans are there, and the whole area is dark. No electricity, machine को काम करने के electricity की जरूरत नहीं, तो पूरा dark area होता है, आपको पता ही नहीं है क्या है, और 400 किलोमीटर तक electricity कहीं है ही नहीं है. क्यों? क्योंकि सब वहाँ dark industries है और मशीनें लगी हुई हैं लगातार काम करने को. ऐसे एरिया को dark area ही कहा जाता है.
Right, sir. So sir, despite all these things, having such, if I will say, if I have a checklist कि क्या क्या relationship में होने चाहिए, India relation, Russia relation में almost सारे टिक होते हैं, फिर भी हमारे relationship में इतने challenges क्यों हैं?
मतलब इंडिया और रशिया के बीच में इतने challenges क्यों हैं? देखिए दो चार चीज़ें हैं जो सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट है. पहली बात क्या तो ये है कि रशिया और इंडिया रिलेशनशिप जो है, जैसा कि सर ने भी एक्सप्लेन किया, इकोनॉमिक टाइज हमारी वीक हैं और डिफेंस टाइज हमारी बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग है बेसिकली. सो इट इज़ अ वन साइडेड रिलेशनशिप, एंड इनफैक्ट आई फाइंड इट कि हैवी डिपेंडेंसी ओवर द रशियन डिफेंस सिस्टम इज़ अ मेजर इरिटेंट, एंड इस डिपेंडेंसी का फ़ायदा रशिया ने कई बार उठाया भी है. जैसे मैं आपको कुछ छोटे एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ कि रशियन वेपन्स इन इंडिया, they are not agreeing to transfer technology even for the maintenance of the weapon system. जो manual भी देते हैं ना वो रशियन लैंग्वेज में देते, ठीक है आज बहुत इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं रह गया लैंग्वेज का, बट 20 साल पहले बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट था इस बात का. तो आपको जब भी अपने वेपन्स का मेंटेनेंस करना, यू नीड टू कॉल द रशियन एक्सपर्ट्स ओवर देयर एंड यू नीड टू पे द प्राइस. And Russians were not ready to go for the upgradation of their own weapon system. This is surprising. The Russian supplied weapons, fighter jets, I would say that, was upgraded by Israel for India, but not the Russian itself basically. And that is because of the heavy dependency over the Russian. उनको भी लगता था कि ठीक है upgrade नहीं करेंगे, नया खरीदोगे. But once we enter into the collaboration with the Israeli, we started upgrading those weapons. So heavy dependency is always a challenging thing. Now the second important point is, because of the Ukraine war, the dependency of Russia over China has increased a lot. That is again a major irritant. As Russia and China will come closer, the Indian maneuverability in Asia will significantly going to reduce. And if anyhow this Russia-China-Pakistan axis will grow, then India is going to face a severe challenge in the Asian region. Till date, thanks, I would say that India maintain its close tie with the Russia. That is one of the irritant. Like a lot of people, experts argue that India abstain and refrain from voting against the Russians. One of the reason that we want to break that axis. That's very much true to certain extent. That is one another important irritant is there. Now the third important problem is our economic basket. If you see the trade imbalance, the total trade imbalance is of more than 55 billion US dollar. Around 60 billion US dollar. This is what we import. And the total export of India is of 5 billion US dollar. Look at the trade imbalances there, and one of the reason is that we are just purchasing oil, and the trade basket is also not very much diversified between India and Russia. The number of Indian diaspora, if I compare with US, and I'm just counting NRIs, it is more than 10 lakh. If you include the PIOs and NRIs both, it goes more than 40 lakhs. But the number of Indian in Russia is very less in numbers. So that is another. And Russia is also feeling irritated about India's growing defense relationship with the Israel as well as with the US. So these are the major growing challenges between India and Russia, and India need to deal very calmly with all these positions. And one more thing I would say, India has the opportunities. Now opportunities in what sense? Like in case of Central Asia, Russia-China relationship as an interest is not converging, because the Central Asia remained the Russian playground, specifically before 90s, even after 90s. SCO is a major organization not driven by the Russians, it is driven by the Chinese. So Russians are also worried the Chinese economic, political and strategic clout in Central Asia is keep on rising, and they always look for to balance that. And anyone who can balance in Central Asia to the China is India, because the Central Asians are more interested in exploring of hydrocarbon, export of hydrocarbon, and with their low purchasing power looking for the finished industrial goods and regular household goods basically. In India, India is very suitable for both. Like India is a energy hungry country, our energy needs keep on increasing. So India is a perfect player to be part of the Central Asian game in favor of Russia. So India has opportunity, but it's all about that how you place, how you position yourself and approach to that part. That's the important thing. In my opinion, that going for a very a clear-cut alignment is always detrimental to the Indian interest. Again, I would like to quote our external minister S. Jaishankar. He multiple times he said that when the world is in transition, India is able to make much more out of it. And you can see the world is in transition. So if India plays properly, then we can really extract much more, because there is a deep mistrust between Russia and US, between US and China, between even Russians and Chinese. between Russian and Chinese. And I'm just pointing out, this is very interesting. You know, in Chinese media, Indian Prime Minister is basically considered as a Lao Xian. Lao Xian is a character basically in Chinese, and it means a amazing personality, person with weird qualities. So they believe that the Indian Prime Minister has the potential basically to take India on much higher level, and they at the same time they believe that the West like India more in comparison to the China. An interesting part, China or the Chinese citizens rarely consider Russians as a major power, but they consider US as a major power. So now in all this geopolitical scenario, if India plays it rightly, I mean with the China, with the Russia, with the US, then we can gain. I mean, there is a deep mistrust, but nobody has more options. I mean, Russians are also having one option, aligning with the China. Later on, they have to look towards India. US is not having much option in Indo-Pacific region. India is the option for US also in a long term. So it's all about, you know, managing the current position rather than submitting and aligning to anyone. So my point is what? If this type of geopolitical pressure is there, so it is not right time to completely align with any time. Maintain that strategic autonomy and keep on continue with policy of hedging. In just 1 year, 2 year or 3 year, our relationship is going to be further strengthened with both of the power, with the Russians also, with the US also.
So I would also like to add something into it. As you have very comprehensively explained it, I'll just also say that communication had always been a key for any good relation, and defense relations only come in picture occasionally, and economic relations come into the picture daily. That Russia and China has, and we do not have. Second thing, Russia and China, they can trade easily because of ruble and the Chinese currency, both being the hard currency. We do not have that hard currency, we face that challenge. And because of the regular communication between China and Russia, the skepticism is coming towards India, particularly in Central Asia. Because India's presence in Tajikistan was not seen as a positive sign by Russia rather than China. Closing of the any airbase is an example of it.
Sir, I'm just adding on. That airbase we had because of the Russians only.
Right.
For earlier when the Taliban forces was fighting in Afghanistan, and by 1989 when, or 88 in fact, Russia completely withdrew. So they wanted to have the Indian, their presence along with India, so they provided. But Russia and China has their own problems. In Siberia region, they have a border dispute. In fact, China still believe that there are Chinese territory which has been taken over by the Russians. Interesting part, in that entire area, there is a Chinatown which is a major irritant between the local Russian people and to the Chinese side. And in Central Asia, China is not trusted as much as India is trusted. But the problem with the Central Asian countries, they look towards Russia, it may go for again realignment and maybe USSR can be formed. And at the same time, they look towards China, that China will dominate and monopolize the market of Central Asia. In both of the position, India has a fine place basically, and Russians want us to be there so they can balance China in that particular region, because India can only balance China economically in the region, looking into the low purchasing capacity of Central Asia and their capacity to sell हाइड्रोकार्बन्स. अगर आप सेंट्रल एशिया को देखें तो नॉर्थ में रशिया हो गया और इस तरफ वेस्ट एशिया हो गया, तो ये सब तो ऑयल और एनर्जी सेलिंग कंट्रीज हैं बेसिकली. इनमें से कोई खरीदेगा नहीं, खरीदने वाले नीचे की ओर ही है. मतलब सदर्न और आप देखें तो चाइना हो गया, इंडिया हो गया, पाकिस्तान हो गया. पाकिस्तान की इकोनॉमिक नीड उतनी है नहीं, तो ले दे के बचते कौन है? हम और चाइना है. और अगर हम नहीं जाएंगे तो चाइना की मोनोपोली है वहां पर. तो the Russians are, the Chinese are, Central Asians are always welcoming us basically. हाँ, थोड़ा ये जो ट्रांजिशनल पीरियड इसको होल्ड करके रखना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है. और ऐसा ना हो कि इस प्रेशर में अगर अलाइनमेंट कहीं हम कर लें ज़्यादा और hedging को छोड़ दें तो that will be detrimental in a long term to Indian side.
Yes, sir. Would you like to add anything, sir?
Nothing, sir. I was just thinking about the great game, the past and all. Central Asia was a key place of great game.
Yes, sir. China, sir was saying that, so I was thinking कि if China का बस चलेगा तो फिर वो US पे भी claim कर देगा historical territory पे. So, dear friends, we have come to the end of this session. I hope you enjoyed this session. This is very important topic. Keep following the news as well. And if something important comes up, we will cover that thing again. And we really appreciate your support. And I would really like to thank all of you for joining this session. There is one PDF. I would like everyone to comment in the comment section. We will provide the PDF as well, along with your name. Please provide it. And if you want that we should take up any other topic on next Friday, just put that in the comment section, and definitely we will take up that topic if it is important. So thank you very much. Jai Hind. See you soon.